Welcome, Dallin Pepper. Look at this. Hello, Sir Dallin. Yeah, Sir Dallin Pepper.
That's my boy. He's always got me.
Pep and rep, lad. Augustus is a great guy. He watches everything, comments on everything,
It's honestly
everywhere.
impressive.
He, I'm guessing, like lives in his, I don't know, a basement somewhere, his mother's basement or something, and just watches
Just
everything all day, comments on everything all day.
multiple screens.
Yeah. Oh, there's a girl in that picture. So maybe she's like, come on, Augustus, we have to go. I can't. There's another show on.
He's just hoping nothing overlaps.
Yeah.
Oh.
How are you? Second fittest man on earth.
Yeah, I'm good. Just got pretty sick. Well, not pretty sick. My body just shut down on Monday. It felt like it was an exhausting couple of days in a lot of ways. But yeah, getting over that and just back home with the dog and the wife.
How does that happen every year? That you have like your body gives up
Yeah,
after?
it kind of feels like it's like holding on all summer. Like, don't get sick. Like, hold it together, hold it together, hold it together, and then hit Sunday night, and it's like, okay, we made it, and everything hits. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like do you get like an emotional dump as well, like afterwards? Obviously this year, but like other years, are you
Yeah.
like, because there's so much adrenaline, and then when it goes, it's just
Yeah.
like a
Like,
void, I'm guessing.
yeah, definitely every year. It feels like that in some way. I mean, there's always crazy stuff that happens during the week, but of course, especially this year. But yeah, it almost every competition, honestly, because it's so much up and down with the games, especially because it just feels like there's so much buildup happening all summer for this competition. So, yeah,
Yeah, it's I guess the more well known you get, or the more successful you get, you also have other obligations then that you have to do. Usually those coincide with competition. So if you're going to Wadapalooza, there's
yeah,
usually tier stuff on around Wadapalooza. If you go to the games, they're like, oh, all the athletes are going to be here. Let's do something. And then I'm
yeah,
guessing the athletes are like, cool, yeah, I'm not up to much that week. That suits.
yeah. Luckily, like all the companies I work with are very open to like our ideas, like what will work for us, and they try and get it done earlier in the week and out of the way of any sort of schedule conflicts, and they let us do our thing for the most part. But there is things we need to take care of and earlier in the week, and that's part of the job. And most of the time, I enjoy doing all of it. So
Yeah. Um, we'll talk about what happened. We'll talk about like all the bad stuff in a while. I don't want to kind of gloss over it. And I'm conscious of the fact that a lot of people are saying a lot of stuff, and
yeah,
I've kind of said nothing. Um, but like the reason I've said nothing is because I kind of don't think I have anything of value to add to it. Like
yeah,
I knew Lazar, talked to him fairly frequently. He's
yeah,
been on the show a few times. Like cool guy, terrible. Like it's awful what happened. But I think I don't know. Just there's a lot of noise, like a
yeah,
lot. There's a lot of assumptions being made, a lot of like presumptions being made, a lot of I don't know, like public grieving or something, and that's not really my thing. So if somebody's coming here expecting it to be a show that's all about that, it's not. You're in the wrong place.
you know,
Um,
um, I kind of came in with what I wanted to say, if you don't mind. Like
go
I
for it,
just
yeah,
say it and
please.
get it out there.
Yeah,
Um, I don't have a whole lot in me to talk about it because, like you said, there's a lot of noise out there. The one thing I'll say is I miss my friend and my competitor, and I feel for the Jukic family. Like my heart hurts. I wish I could give Luca and Anya a hug, but I can't. And there are a lot of conversations being had behind the scenes. But until we know all the information, that's basically all I've got. So
yeah,
yeah,
I'm the same. It's just like I don't know. There's just so much being said that it's kind of like, right. I mean, I could just shout into it, but what would I
yeah,
actually be achieving? Like, it's not going to do anyone any good. So, like,
yeah,
I emailed Luca. Don't ever expect to get a reply from it. Like,
yeah,
I thought about Lazar frequently over the weekend, but outside of that, it's like I'm not really much use.
yeah,
Um, the that so like any question I ask you now, is kind of laced with all that. So like,
Yeah, I agree.
you know, when you go to check in and stuff at Texas, so like the Lazar tragedy is going to be like the elephant in the room. I'm not going to keep mentioning it every time. And if I ask you a question about one of the workouts, we'll assume that you felt like shit.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
Because we all did, but
yeah,
we can discuss things with that being a presumption or whatever.
exactly. Yeah. So when you go to check in and stuff, you're used to Madison. That was like every year that you went
Yeah.
was
So
Madison.
I had been to Madison for a week or so of my summer for over 33% of my life. And so
That's crazy.
like I went to like that's just what I did. That's all I've known. And so it was actually really weird going to Texas because the days leading into the games didn't feel like the games.
Yeah.
Because I was so accustomed to that. And like I've competed in other locations, but like for the most part, Miami's been the same the whole time I've been doing this, all of that. And so showing up in Texas was a little bit weird until check in and I started seeing the guys that I was competing against. Like that's when it started to feel a little bit more like the games. But it was weird.
Is it like did it feel, obviously it feels weird and stuff, but did it feel any different? Like did the venue feel any different? Did it feel like better? Did it feel worse? Did it feel like more special? Did it feel like an upgrade, a downgrade? Like, you know, what were your kind of overall thoughts or overall impressions of the venue, and then I guess the process of checking in and stuff?
Yeah. I don't think it was better or worse. I think it was exciting for a change. I remember when we were checking in, I kind of like snuck my head around the curtain while they were putting up rigs. Uh, and just like my first initial thought was like, this thing is huge. Like they have Zeus on the end of the floor, and Zeus looks small. And like the floor was so long, the amount of just like rubber mats everywhere. Um, that was my first initial thought, is everything was just big. And everything was also very um, like clean and nice. Like you can tell that I mean, it's a new venue. It's only been a couple of years. Um, but yeah, those were our first initial thoughts. Check in. Trying to remember all of check in. It was pretty normal, like usual vendors lined up. We It's always different with the different title sponsor, whoever's providing the apparel and clothing. That's always a different experience. Again, I don't think there's any that's been better or worse. I've done the Reebok, I've done Noble and Go Ruck, but all of them were pretty cool. So, yeah.
Is it does it get normal, like, just because I was at checking this year, so I kind of got a sense of what it's like. One thing I hate doing, maybe this is unique to me, I hate saying my own name. Like,
yeah, into the microphone where they pronounce it.
That, and then signing as well. So like you had to sign on a little tablet, and then that was going to come up on the graphic or whatever. But you also had to sign a wall and like 2 posters. So obviously the thing with the tablet was people were doing it and then be like, oh, can I just do that again? And then like redoing it. Whereas you get to the wall, it's like, oh shit, if I mess this one up, I can't just like click erase. Are you comfortable with that kind of stuff, with like saying your name, signing your name, all that? Is that kind of all passe now? Or are you just kind of like, yeah, whatever?
The real pressure, like I feel like I'm good saying my name, signing it, taking pictures, like showing, like trying to show a little personality in some of the pictures. The one that gets me every time is like they're doing like a video and it goes up on the board and sometimes it's slow-mo, but it's like a 15-second video and you can only do so many things like without being like so over the top. And so I did that section like 4 times. Like I was like, I gotta redo that. I felt stupid. God, like trying that. Like, did they play those on the video?
Yeah,
board?
but the thing is, so I was with Grace Walton when she was doing hers, and like massively overthinking everything that she was doing.
Absolutely.
But the girl that was doing it, I think it was that I think her name is Lillian Fuentes. She was doing it and she was like, oh, it's about so you need to, like, you know, some people are crossing their arms and nodding, and some people are, I don't know, giving a fucking thumbs up or whatever. But then she was like, she told her the gist, and I think she showed her one, and then she goes, it's about 15 seconds. And my immediate thought was, that's a lifetime to be like doing nothing to a camera. So she started, I think she was like, oh, can I put on the hat? And your mom was like, yeah, cool. So eventually Zane, her boyfriend, got her to, in the 15 seconds, put on the hat, like run her fingers along the rim and then like cross her arms and nod or whatever. So she did that, took like 2.5 seconds.
Yep.
So then the whole rest of the time, the one was just like, yeah, just keep nodding at me. Just keep nodding. Just keep nodding. And I was like, jeez.
I did something where it was like, went across my name and then like pointed at the camera. And like the first time I did it, I felt like I was just standing there pointing for like an awkwardly long amount of time. And then I just started laughing and it was like 8 seconds. So I had to like do the whole thing over and just point forever. Like, yeah.
But then on the screen,
and then everyone's also watching. Everyone's in line.
Oh yeah.
But then also everyone feels the exact same thing. So like, I don't know.
And then, but when they actually play it, because I was up in one of the boxes and I saw like, it was like Grace Walton and like she comes out on the floor and on the screen a thing pops up. Doesn't show anything, just shows her nodding like 3 times and it cuts off. So it's only like 1.5 seconds long. It was all that angst over nothing.
They're just choosing what they want to put up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So with the after check-in, you guys had the hammer brief. Was that the same day?
Actually, no.
That was Wednesday.
We checked in Tuesday, and then we had the brief Wednesday.
What do you do between Tuesday and Wednesday? Do you just like go and flush out on a bike somewhere and then relax, basically?
Yeah, Tuesday was our last like in the gym session. Wednesday was doing nothing, just trying to figure out what I did to stay busy. Probably watching Netflix or something. Got some body work done. Nothing crazy.
I just remembered this post and started laughing. Hang on, let me see if I can. Just when I thought it, when you said, "Oh, that was my last in session," I just.
Oh yeah, that was the last training session, dude. Danielle still made like it look kind of athletic, and I just look. I don't even know, dude. The head movement is the best part, and it also took me forever to figure out how to run wrong. Like we were doing this for like 20 minutes. It was awesome.
That's it's like I've been giving you running tips. It's great.
Dude, I watched that so many times.
With the hammer thing then, so that was the next day you came back in, you had your hammer demonstration. Like part of me is glad that never happened, that workout, because I saw some videos of people practicing. It started off like, I remember hearing about it being like, oh, that's going to look like really athletic and, you know, like, especially for the guys, I was like, that's going to look incredibly masculine and powerful, like swinging a hammer around like that. Then I saw the videos of you guys practicing, and some people really stood out of like, have they ever been in the same room as a hammer before? Like, what's happening? Did that just evolve into, okay, here's the workout, and then people just saying, can I do this? And then that question just like, and this, what if I do this? And Dave was just like, yeah, whatever.
So I think it could have been like, looked really cool. But for a competition, you have to create some sort of standard. And part of the standard was the hammer had to be above your head. And when I first heard that, I was like, okay, so here's my head and the hammer will be in front of the plane of my body, but it's going to be higher than the top of my head. And so I asked the question, I was like, is that the standard? They're like, no, it has to be over your head. Like not above your head, over the top of your head.
Yeah.
Which with a hammer, I don't think that's the greatest idea under fatigue to be holding it over your head.
It's how they're commonly used, Dallin.
Yes. And like if we could have gone to the side, like how you would normally swing a sledgehammer, probably would have looked pretty sick. But then as soon as, we got an email later that night that the standard had been changed again because like a bunch of people were finding different hacks. Bailey Martin was swinging it in the bottom of a squat because then the top of the hammer only had to go up like a foot off the tire. And then immediately they're like, the standard is like new standard. You have to be above parallel. Like just like throwing new standards out at us because everyone's just dissecting this movement. And I think that's something the demo team could do. Like the demo team definitely can't just be like, yes, man, like this is awesome. I'm going to do it exactly how you want it. Like try and find a way to game every single movement. Cause that's what we're going to do. Like we're trying to win. We're trying to get the fastest score. And if we can make an odd movement easier, we're going to do it. And so, yeah, we got an email late that night that there was a standard change. It would have been very interesting to watch. cool work. Like it was there. It was there. I just don't know.
Yeah. I heard
We'll
that.
never know. Yeah.
I heard Bailey and Ricky were like basically ass to grass.
Yeah.
And like
It
just
was
like flicking
watching
up
it
and
was
down.
so funny. Yeah.
And then I heard that some people worked out that you could hold, you had to move your hands or something, but then some people worked out, well, if I just hold one hand and move the other hand up and underneath
Yep.
the hand that's there, yeah. So you just need, basically you needed Colton and Tudor and those guys to just be like sneakier and try and like,
Yeah. Like really trying to destroy it.
yeah.
Yeah. Which is tough because we have 80 people working for that, and
Yeah.
they've got the 8 or 6 or whatever it is.
I also saw a video or a screenshot of a video just when we're talking about standards and stuff of what appeared to be you doing Chad on a similar set of boxes, not like identical but similar.
Yeah.
Obviously, if so like I kind of was put myself in your position or in whoever's position, and you get information that's to your benefit, and then I feel like I'd be so conflicted of, oh cool, I know something that other people don't know, and then also like, what the fuck is wrong with this sport that we can't just have a level playing field for everyone?
No.
What's like, how did you, when you get that kind of information, how do you feel about it?
I wasn't told any information. I saw that in the background of someone else's video. Like it was going around. I saw like a setup and I'm like, this is interesting. And I honestly thought it was just people like being super bored of like step ups or step overs. Cause like that's what I did the whole time. And then I didn't actually do any of the pyramid ones for like training. Like that video was like, this is funny. Like we're gonna set this up. If this is how it is, then it would look like this. So that's kind of what happened there. And then it very quickly spread. And then within 2 days of me seeing the video, I was hearing that other athletes were getting something along those lines. So yeah.
Do you find it frustrating though, like sorry, Chase has corrected me, not leaked, released. When the information like that is released, does it like piss you off or do you care?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think I would love if nothing was released. Like, honestly, that's better for me. Like, if I can show up and like we get the workout an hour before we do it, like that's good. I don't want to practice. That's why semifinals is like such a pain. Like, I hated knowing those workouts, and we were the last week. I wish there was a way. I don't know how you like vet the demo team. I know they're signing NDAs, but like, do people need to like, does one person need to like get caught and like punished? I don't know. It's weird. It is weird. It's unfortunate. I wish it wasn't that way. But then also like in other sports, I can't even think of a good example. If I'm being honest, I'm not going to try. It sucks. I wish everyone would just know if something's released, everyone should have it. If not, we should just keep everything a secret. So
yeah. Like when I saw that, when I had understood that a lot of people had seen it, I started sending it to people then. Like, so about a week after, I was like, well, hang on. It's not really fair if like Mayhem have it and Invictus have it, but like, you know, underdogs don't, or, you know, or some like, I think I sent it to Emma McQuaid because I was like, she's not in a camp technically. So it's like, she's not, unless someone specifically sends it to her, she's not going to see it. And sure enough, I sent it to her. She's like, how the fuck do people get these? It's just like, yeah, I think, I don't know. The NDA thing is obviously like, you know, it's just like people are like, it's like, I heard that some people were told explicitly, like, don't be seen talking to athletes in Texas or whatever. Like Dave was like, don't be seen, you know, like talking to athletes or hanging around athletes. And I was like, man, wait till he hears about texting. Like, you know, like it's just, there's no safety net at all. It's just like the, you know, the kind of, I don't know, the way of putting people off is just being like, don't do it. You know, it's like, okay, text.
Like, I don't know what needs to happen if I'm being honest. Like I don't have the solution for that one, but I do wish it was we all just showed up and knew nothing.
Yeah. So I was the source of the leak. No, I just like kind of opened the faucet when I realized there was a leak. I just kind of turned on the tap so everyone got wet. When Thursday morning, then so the games kicks off. That was, I think, where did you finish, like 15th or something in the first event, didn't you?
Yeah,
I
15.
think. How did that feel like as a, say, like the event specifically? Like, was it as hard as you expected it to be? Was it worse? Was it easier? Was it because those events usually, especially those kind of mass start ones where the girls and guys all go together,
Yeah.
is usually like looks fairly intense.
Yeah.
How did it feel?
Like beforehand, obviously very nervous, but I still think the first event, like in whatever venue, like taking the floor, is definitely more like I'm gonna throw up. Why do I do this sport kind of thing? But the mass starts and long events, you usually have enough time to like ease into it. The swim was very hard. It was very long. It took a long time. But that event honestly was like a huge win for me. I ran my 5K at the games my 5K, right? At the games last year, I averaged a 6:48 pace, and for the 3.5 miles, I averaged a 6:35, and then jumped in the
Wow.
water for
Okay.
20 minutes. So that was a really big win. I was over a minute ahead of the whatever distance we ran last year. Like compared to this year, I was much faster to that
Yeah.
distance and just
And that was
continued.
a big
So
thing for you in the off season, was it? Running, like that was your
that was
big.
like the number one thing. So
Yeah.
unfortunately, after this week, I'll continue running, but we did make progress. we got better at it, and I knew I could like pass some people in the water, so that was kind of the plan. And I think I got 7 people in the water, is
Yeah.
what Matt told me. So overall, I was really stoked with how that event went, based on
How does he
all the
track that?
training.
Does he just keep? He's just mindful of who's getting into the water in front of you, and then who you came out ahead
Yeah,
of, basically.
I think they ran over or drove over to the entry point of the swim, and I was 22nd into the water. And so
Okay.
I think that's how he got it. But yeah.
Okay. And you said the swim was long. Do you mean like you aren't accustomed to swimming that distance, or that particular swim, the distance felt longer and took longer than it usually would?
I think the swim, like it was hot. Um, it was extremely foggy and blurry, and the sun, like fogged up goggles, you look up and it's just bright blurriness. So you weren't really sure where you are.
Oh, hang on, your sound has gone off there. Kind of sounded like maybe your headphones died, but I'm not
Not still
sure.
good?
Oh yeah, you're back.
Okay. Um, yeah,
Yeah, Ricky
I
said the
don't think,
same. He got out of the water, and I was like, "Oh, what was that like?" And he said you just could not see anything
no,
in front
yeah,
of yourself, because as soon as you pull your head up, you're just blinded by this, because the
yeah.
sun was just coming up over the hill.
Yeah, so we went over to the lake on the Monday before, and I saw there were 2 trees that would kind of peek up over the highway, and so I knew if the sun was coming up there, I could see at least the shadows of the 2 trees. So that's what I was spotting off of. And then when I got to the end, I was sure I was almost to the finish, and you know how that marsh kind of stuck out a little bit. I saw people to the left, and so I started going that way. And it turns out I hadn't made it around the marsh yet. Um, and then I was like, okay, once I get around the marsh, surely it's like 100 yards to the end, and it felt like another 200. I couldn't see where I was supposed to get out of the water, so I'm like trying to find. I eventually found like the bright green clock, and that's what I got. But like seeing anything was pretty rough in that water.
Was the water dark as well, as in like looking down?
Yeah, you couldn't see anything.
Okay, so you couldn't
No,
even go under and see if you could see like legs in front or whatever to track off.
no. Like if
Yeah.
I put my hand down, I probably wouldn't be able to see it.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Um. Okay, so then at what point did you know that something had happened then? That there was like, were you still there, or had you got back to your
Yeah.
hotel or house or whatever?
Um, so I was in the ice barrel. I was like just getting in the tubs over there, and Luca actually came by with, I think it was Brian, um, like they don't like saying they don't know where Lazar is. Like, where's my brother? And that was the first time I heard that something had happened. And then my parents actually were standing by the guy who jumped in.
Yeah.
So they actually saw all of it unfold. And so they told me at the car, but I still hadn't, like, nothing had been confirmed at that point. So I wasn't sure exactly what had happened.
So your parent, that was Medeiros' girlfriend's brother or something, wasn't it? Or
Yeah,
some.
yeah. I didn't know if that was like super well known or not, but yeah, it was the Medeiros family.
And so I've heard two versions of that story. If your parents were there, so I've heard that there was a huge fuss being made, like loads of shouting and screaming and stuff, and it was just being ignored. And then I've also heard, separate to that, I've heard another story where the guy realized someone was struggling, jumped in, and was basically just sent back to shore. And then there was like frustration, but like that was kind of it.
I heard like maybe a mix of those where there was a lot of like yelling and shouting and like nothing was happening, and so the guy jumped in and then was sent back.
Okay.
Like, don't quote me on that. That's just
Yeah, yeah.
what I heard. And my parents, I don't think my family was like right there, but they were close enough to
They
hear
were
what was
witness
going
to it or
on.
whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's
So
crazy. Okay, so then the next day, then, or later that day, obviously, as the morning kind of unfolds, more news comes out. It's everywhere. Like,
yeah,
I mean, I text my brother about it. Oh, he doesn't want to talk about it, obviously. I say you got a call. You're back.
okay, there we go.
I text my brother about it, who has no interest in CrossFit at all. And he was like, "Oh yeah, we saw that on BBC, like on the news. It was on like
Yeah,
the national news here. Like my wife's mum saw or heard it on the radio or whatever. So it was everywhere within a couple of hours. Um, unavoidable or whatever. You go, you're told that the events are cancelled for that day, and then you're told to come in for a meeting or whatever, or like a decision basically about the rest of the week. Is that accurate?
yeah, that's kind of what happened. Oh, actually, um, we didn't receive any information. Like, people were going in for the second event because like some people
Okay.
hadn't heard what happened. I'm pretty sure it came out on the news before we were told anything. Um, I know a couple athletes that finished the event and went home and went to sleep, and like they didn't find out until they woke up. Um, but yeah, people were there for the second event without really knowing what was going on.
Yeah, it's crazy. Um, yeah, because even I know a lot of people, when it's that time of year, just don't go on social media or don't go on,
Yeah,
like they
yeah,
just like switch off grid altogether.
like
So then
text
I guess you're
messages,
relying on someone
that
coming
up.
over to you saying, "Hey, have you heard about
Yeah.
this?" Um, so when you went back then for the meeting and stuff, um, I think it's been kind of fairly well publicized, but basically you guys went into the room and then you were told what CrossFit would like to happen basically is to continue. And
Hmm.
then there was kind of a bit of like, basically, no, fuck that was the kind of vibe of the room. And then
Yeah.
you guys are split off into competitive groups. So like males, females,
Hmm.
teams, and then coaches and agents or something.
Yeah, there
Um,
was a coaches section too.
how long did that process take? That whole, like,
I was there for 3 hours along with everybody. Um, and then there were I think this is also pretty well known, but we all chose representatives because we were getting nowhere with the conversation
yeah.
to go meet privately, and they were kind of the people who were going to help make the decision. And I think they were there for another hour and a half. So it was like over 4 hours that some people were there discussing. Um,
And
yeah.
were those representatives chosen after you guys had, so you broke off into groups, so all the guys are in a group,
Hmm.
and then after trying to talk about stuff, it became apparent, right, that we're not actually going to solve anything here. So you picked five
Yeah.
people after that.
So it was kind of like full group, split off, full group, split off, kind of full group again. And then we all decided on like the five or so.
How do you pick the five? Do people volunteer?
Sorry, I didn't hear that last part.
How do you pick the five? Like, do people volunteer or how did that work?
There were people like, yeah, it was like who was open to it and who had kind of been leading the discussion anyway. And then at least for the men, we tried to make sure that everyone was representative. So
Yeah, that's the
obviously we want
thing.
like people like Brent,
Because if
Pat,
you
and
have like,
Cole, like,
say, someone who's like, we should definitely cancel, and then 4 other people who are
yeah,
also saying we should definitely cancel, and then other people are like,
yeah,
well, maybe I want to be a representative too. Could we have 6?
yeah. So that's exactly kind of what happened. And then we also wanted to, like, Pat, Brent, and Cole are 10 years deep. And then, like, they're rookies. Rookies aren't speaking up because they're, like, in a really weird spot.
Yeah,
And they also don't know anybody. So it was kind of like, I think it was Jay and Jason were kind of like some of the younger guys who hadn't been in it as long. We made sure we had a couple of those guys represented. And also, like, I believe the most expensive trip is people from Oceania. Like, we're taking into consider everything. Like, we were there for 3 hours, so everything came up. I know for the men, we tried to get a broad representation of everybody with everyone's opinions, different situations. So
yeah. Like it must be awful as well because it's all fairly raw. So you're dealing with like the emotional impact, the kind of, I'm trying to think the right word, like the surrealness or whatever of the scenario that you're in. Like that's just a
yeah,
like insane scenario to be in. And then you're being asked to decide like what's going to happen, but also you're doing all that in a compressed like 3 hour, and it's in the immediate aftermath as well. It's not like it's a week later, or you can't, because of the nature of the event, I guess you can't say, right, well, let's meet back Sunday, I guess, because like
yeah,
everything is so finite. So the decision, like it's a time sensitive decision in that respect. But
yep,
then, I mean, there's probably also like, there's probably people who are really close to Lazar. And then there's probably
hmm,
people who, maybe never met him or never spoke to him
yeah,
or like had really brief encounters. And there's going to be two very different responses in a lot of ways. Like one of those people is probably going to be really emotional about it, really cut up about it. The other person is probably going to be like empathetic, as in like, oh, this is really shit. It's really sad.
yeah.
I'm at the CrossFit Games, though. Are we going to, you know what I mean? Like there's the kind of split, and then you've got every like spot on the
Everything in
spectrum in
between.
between those two
Yeah,
people.
and there's also 80 individuals and however many teams, and then also the coaches were involved.
Yeah,
Like,
it's
I don't
very
even know
hard
how
to
many people.
be, even to think or to talk logically in that
Yeah,
kind of scenario. Plus, you've also got the fact of, like you said, the rookie's not talking. I'm sure there's other people who are like, oh, people will think I'm an asshole if I say I
yeah,
want to continue, or they'll think I'm soft if I say I don't want to continue. You know what I mean? There's also that.
yeah. Everything in between too. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's so public because you're just like,
Mhm.
it's like a men's group. You're one.
Yeah.
So everyone's just sitting facing each other like,
Yeah.
was everybody there? Was there anybody, did anybody say like, nah, I'm not going to bother going, or I don't want to be there for it, or
Not that I know of.
yeah.
Not anyone that, like, I mean, that I wasn't honestly paying too much attention to that.
Was there any part of you that was tempted to be like, do you know what, just decide and just let me know what's decided? And then, because I think, were you guys told, even if there is a decision to continue, that you don't have to continue anyway?
Uh, I don't know when. I know that was, like, posted or something by CrossFit,
Yeah.
or, like, I think there was an email or a post that said if an athlete doesn't decide to continue tomorrow, they can continue at any point in the week. I think that was put out.
Yeah.
Um, I don't have recollection on when all of that was said. So
Yeah. But there was no part of you that thought, okay, I'm going to go. Like Jason, just text me and let me know, or Matt, just text me and let me know what's happening.
no, I didn't feel like that would be right.
Yeah. It's hard, isn't it? Like there's just so much going on there.
Yeah.
So when it was decided, then were you of the opinion? I'm guessing because you continued, that you wanted to continue from the get go. Is that accurate?
Yeah. I for sure, like, something like the competition needed to stop on Thursday. And then there were different options as to when the competition should resume, and I was open to a lot of those. But I did believe that the competition should resume based on my experiences with Lazar. Also, putting myself in a situation like that, I would want my friends and competitors who I understand, and I only people who have been to the games and have made the games can understand each other in the way that we all do and the respect we have for each other. And that was enough for me, knowing the relationship I had with Lazar, that was the right decision for me.
Yeah. Did you get any shit afterwards for continuing?
Just from spam accounts on Instagram. That's
Classic.
about it.
Your parents
Yep.
set up a burner account, sent some messages
Yeah,
just to build some mental resilience.
Probably my little sister or something.
Yeah. What are you doing? Nothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. There's just so much. I think there's so much shit that's gonna. Okay, there's a lot of information still to come out, but I think there's so much shit that's gonna come out from that side of things, like from people, the just bizarreness of the situation for each of the people involved. Do you know what I mean? Like like we talked about that, there's like a sliding scale of effect it's going to have on people, like people who are really close to him, people who didn't know him, people who have been there like years, people who it's their rookie year, and then it's like it's the game's tarnished for the likes of like Austin Hatfield or whatever, who is kind of like, oh cool, like I've won rookie of the year, and it's like I can't even do anything, I can't even like say woohoo, I'm rookie of the year. It's just like such an unusual scenario. After that, so what was your attitude towards the competition? So were you like, I know there was kind of talk about exhibition, and there was talk about, you know, certain people wanted to you know, either struggle to continue to compete or wanted it to be an exhibition from the get-go, and were like kind of almost going through the motions or whatever. And then there was other people who, I guess you look towards the top of the leaderboard for the people who are like still maintain that kill or be killed attitude, and like, you know, really wanted the points, really wanted to give their best. Where did you sit in that? Did it take you a while to lift yourself back up to be competitive, or did you just kind of enter a, you know, almost a muscle memory stage?
Yeah. A lot of us talked about it. It was like the warm-up area, the corrals, everything was extremely hard and emotional. But all of us kind of felt like when there was that buzzer to start, it was like somewhat of a break that we could all understand each other, and in a way, it was like supportive for one of like each of us to be doing that. I don't really know how to explain it, but like there was like a bit of muscle memory and some camaraderie as you finish the workout. Like there already is that when you're going through something hard as a workout, but also hard as the situation we were all in. But I would say it was like that muscle memory. Like that's what we trained to do, and so that's what a lot of us did.
It was unusual, like even for me, you go down to the kind of warm-up area, and I haven't been in those situations a lot, but like it was weird. Like there was a very unusual energy. Like it was odd. Understandably. But then you go up to the competition floor and it's like nothing has happened. Like the crowd are like about 75% normal, I guess. There's like dancing on the camera and stuff, there's music playing, whatever. And then there's the intensity of competition on the floor, and you guys giving it all like to get points and stuff. Then you go back downstairs and it's just like a vacuum again. Like that has to be exhausting, like picking yourself up and dropping down. Even it's more so than usual, because usually you go back to a warm-up area, there's a bit of shit talk, there's a bit of like whatever, you know, someone might be angry in one corner, someone might be elated in the other corner, but like there was almost just nothing when people came back down.
Yeah. It was like that. And I think it did slowly get better. I'm a firm believer that like it's okay given any situation to like feel some happiness and laughter and like enjoy where you are, because that's just how life is. Life is hard. And so I think some of that did come back as we went. But it was odd navigating the whole situation, because you go from one spot where like we're finishing and like Jay and I are like having a good time, like talking shit on the finish line, and then like reality sets back in the warm-up area. And so it was tough.
Yeah. That is one thing that I think it was Jason like insisted that you go over after that event. That was the Echo, what do you call it, Firestorm. So he won and you came second, and there was like whatever, like 3 or 4 seconds between you, or 5 seconds between you. That was a moment. I think a lot of people. I've kind of thought this was coming for a while. I didn't think James was coming, but like you, Jason, and James, I think or thought are like the future of the sport. Where the three of you are like you. Okay, I don't think Jason's particularly charismatic, but I think you're very charismatic and you kind of carry him along with you a bit. But like,
hey, he's goofier and he carries me along in that way. So
yeah,
right?
but like you, James, and Jason all have this like magnetic kind of charisma. You can back it up with performances on the floor. You're all like classically handsome. You're all like really good at the sport. And then you have great just like you don't really care about like once you're putting on a bit of a show, either actually on the floor or on the mic afterwards or to camera, like spoke volumes that you and Jason were willing to be mic'd up at Wadapalooza last year. You know, it's just like, yeah, let's just entertain. Who cares? And it brings me back to something Colton said. I think it was on one of the debate shows where he was like, if someone puts a mic in your hand or in your face, just say something. Like, don't just say the same shit that everybody always says about, oh, yeah, it was very hard workout, whatever. Like, say something, be entertaining, be different or whatever. And you guys just embody that perfectly. And that was a moment where I think I felt a bit like, oh, like there's actually there's a glimmer of hope. Like kind of there's a bit of normalcy or whatever. So yeah, well done on that, because that was fantastic. Watching the two of you and James is like, it's great. I think it's great for the sport, because especially I think, you know, the other people have a finite amount of time. Like, you know, Brent's not going to go forever. Pat's not going to go forever.
Yeah.
I think people need new favorites. Colton won't like this. Yeah, me saying the people are tall and handsome, and yeah, he won't like that. Do you enjoy that kind of stuff? Like, do you like when he's bringing you up, saying, "Oh, you have to come up if I go up"? Or are you like, "Oh, for fuck's sake, I just want to go back downstairs"?
No, I thought it was good. Like, I knew something would happen. Like, we did the same thing at semis. Like, both of us were up there, and
Yeah,
it was back and forth. I didn't realize that the only reason he brought me up there was so that he could publicly publicly have me ask who the king of the Echo bike is. I didn't see that coming, and I should have from a mile away. It was pretty clear what he was doing, but no, like going with that, like I've been a fan of the sport. Like that's where I started. I've watched every piece of CrossFit media that's ever been put out, like all the road to the games. Like I love that stuff, and we had those entertaining figures with Josh Bridges, Dan Bailey, and like I end up here, and I've been to the games 3 times now. It's like, oh, it doesn't just happen. Like that's me now, and so like I want to provide that same experience that I loved for the fans and for anyone that might be watching.
that's cool, man. I respect the shit out of you for it, because it's not an easy thing to do. As I always feel bad for athletes when they finish a workout and they're like, especially that fire someone, you're absolutely fucked. And then someone puts a microphone in your face and says, "Hey, get some blood up and some oxygen up to your brain there, and come up with something witty or something funny to say back." It's like, unless you've pre-scripted it, you're kind of in trouble to be like, "Oh man, I can't even function. I'm barely standing."
Well, we were walking over, and I don't know if you can watch it or whatever, but me and Jason are like pointing and forgetting who the floor guy.
Mike
Arsenault. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're like, Mike, can we please sit down on these blocks? Like we cannot stand up right now. And so luckily they're usually cool with that, but yeah, it's fun.
That's cool. All right. So heading into, like, you were kind of doing consistently well. Like I'm looking at your scores. So 15, third, second, 22nd. I mean, I guess track and field was always going to be, you know, maybe damage control is harsh, but like you've said, you're working on your running, but like it's always, for the foreseeable future, at least, it's going to be something where you're like, all right, let's do as well as I can do, as opposed to, all right, top 5 or bust.
Yeah. So yeah, I did think that the mile would go better than the 3.5. But I think the sprint also, like that didn't go well. Like I need to get faster sprinting. Other running's improving. But yeah, it's just like doing what I can with what I've got. And last year it would have been easily like a 30-second on the first one, and definitely outside the top 30, because I mean my mile's 25 seconds faster than it was last summer. And so Yeah, definitely damage control, but just trying to snag as many points as I can because they add up.
It's crazy. It must be crazy. I'm watching someone like Ricky just like blaze a
Dude,
trail of fire around. Like it's nuts.
it's at one point we were coming around a corner and I thought we were going to lap somebody because he was so far ahead on the straightaway. Um, and I could see the front group where like whoever else was in the front, like Yella and James, and I couldn't really see who it was because I wasn't looking too close. But I was like, oh, they're gonna catch him. I wonder who's running really slow. They must be hurt. And then I realized that it was Ricky just so far ahead. And also like I've come to the realization and like this kind of like a look into like how my mindset will hopefully help me get better at running. But like running's the most like savage thing you can do. Like you're carrying your body like outrunning someone's sick. Like that's super cool in my eyes. Like and so like to watch it happen, like he's just running so much faster than everyone else. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was crazy. Like he just took off and then just more and more
Yeah.
space just started developing. And
And like
he could have slowed down at any point. I mean, like
yeah,
I'm well ahead of everyone, but he
yeah.
just kept pushing and kept pushing.
Like sub 5 is
Um,
crazy.
yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy as well the amount of people that PB'd or PR'd their mile time
Yeah.
in like so many the girls and the guys, like so
Yeah.
many PR'd.
Well, talking with everyone, everyone's like, "Oh, I'd love to run a 5:15," and it was like everyone was like 5:07s
Yeah.
that I talked to. I was like, "Geez."
Yeah, it's crazy. So you came back in then the next day. When you're like, so that was cool, right? Farrington Field was cool. Did it feel cool doing
Oh,
it?
it was so cool, and like getting there, walking through like the athlete entrance, like the lights are on, like it was like it was super cool. I enjoyed that. I wish I placed higher and like could enjoy it a little bit more. Like Ricky
Yeah.
probably had the time of his life. Like that was so sick.
Yeah, it
But
took him absolutely ages to come back over to like the warm up cool down area. He was
yeah,
like he was stopping everywhere. I'd say it was
yeah,
crazy. But yeah, I mean, I spoke to some people who watched it. Like I think Spin and Tyler and John watched it like on the stream or whatever, and they were
yeah,
like, it didn't look great. Like there was some kind of filter or something that made it look bright, like it was in the daytime instead of at night, and like it looked kind of sparse. I was like, man, when at the thing, it was so cool. Like it was
yeah.
classic, like every movie you've ever seen, every TV show you've ever seen, all the like the floodlights just opening
Yep.
down. Yeah, it was really cool.
Yeah.
Really cool.
Felt like Friday Night Lights playing football in high school.
Yeah, I mean,
It
I
was
wouldn't
fun.
know, but yeah, okay.
Yeah.
With you, so that was, oh, God, fucking damn it, Dallin.
Good again?
That's your last. That's your
That
last
wasn't
time doing
me.
that.
I'm not getting phone calls.
With that was Friday night. Then you were back in on Saturday. Was there a like? Were you continuing to just keep going? Like irrespective of what was happening, were you going to continue until Sunday, or were you like going to bed Friday night being like, I don't know if I can go again tomorrow, or waking up Saturday morning being like, I don't know if this is a good idea?
Um, I mean that doesn't really cross my mind ever. I don't
Yeah,
think. It's just what I do.
yeah, that's
There's
fair.
not the option. Yeah.
What about during Chad? Was there any party that was like, fuck this, I
Oh
want
my
to
gosh.
stop?
Yeah, 20 reps in. Dude, I got two. I was next to Pat, and I got two no reps within the first 60, I think.
Yeah,
And a rep, you go over and back, and that is one rep. And so no matter where you are, and you get no reps for like missing the foot placement, you had to start back on the starting side. And so two no reps is 20 seconds. And so by the second one, I'm like head to head with Pat, like our foreheads are touching on the boxes, and I'm like, "Hey Pat, like you gonna get one of these no reps? Like I gotta focus over here." And he just doesn't say anything to me. I was just really hoping he would give me some encouragement there, but
yeah,
yeah,
or fall off the
Pat
box,
was
whatever.
yeah something. But no, it was fun to do next to Pat. Take advantage of those because he's only gonna be around so long.
Yeah. It was crazy hearing the numbers being called out. I assume you're aware of that too. Like you hear
Yeah,
like Pat's on 90 and then you hear someone else and they're calling out like 72 or something. You're like,
yeah.
how is there that big of a lead?
Well, it was when I was at like 86. It's like Austin Hatfield hits 200. I'm like, how are you gaining 14 reps? Like with those little legs. Like that's what I was thinking about the whole time. I was like, James, completely understand. Austin, what are you doing?
He was just moving so fast. Like he
Yeah,
took off.
he was like jumping down the box essentially.
Yeah, he was doing like a skip. Like it was
Yeah.
almost like Ricky was doing it before he went like whatever, went over in his ankle or whatever.
Yeah.
Ricky was doing the same thing of like, you know, when you get to the bottom of the stairs and you do that kind of half run, like where you go like down the
Yep.
last 2 steps of the stairs. They were both doing that each side of the box.
Yeah.
And then they'd get
that's
tired and do normal.
Yep.
And then they'd start doing it again. But like, yeah, Austin, his speed was like, he started off, I was like, he's fucked. Like, there's no way he maintains that. And like, fair play to him. Like,
I mean,
like, as you say, little legs didn't hold him back.
It's got to be those squats. He's insane at squatting. Honestly, before we went out for Chad, Pat and I were talking. He's like, I don't even care. Let's just go do the 1,000 step overs and then we can move on to the next event. Like, but then it ended up like him and I were basically going rep for rep. He beat me by 2 reps, which were my 2 no reps. So we basically did the whole thing together, and that was a good push. Like it was nice to have him there.
That's cool. Going into the final kind of the 2-part or whatever, you were in like 4th.
Yeah.
And it was Brent, James, Jason, you, is that right?
Yes, from the top.
Yeah. Did you know, like, going into that, okay, this is within reach? Like, it's because it's easy, I guess, like from the outside, it's easy to look at the leaderboard, see the way it is, and be like, there's only one event left. And then you hear it's a 2-part, and you're like, oh fuck, like 200 points is a shit ton of points to either get or give up. Were you, like, did you know it was within your reach, or were you just like, all right, let's just send it and see, hopefully the chips fall on my way, and if they don't, they don't?
First, we need to rewind to the dumbbell snatch event.
Okay.
Because I have a funny story. First of all, we're in the briefing. We don't know the event. And I see like the pylon set up like for the run course. And I'm like, oh my gosh, we're running again. So there's that. But then James sees the run course. He's hearing toes to bar and 100-pound dumbbell snatches. And James turns to like the group of 7 or 8 of us, all of who are like giving shit to James all weekend. Like, oh, in the leader jersey, Pat doesn't even have one, all this stuff. And James just turns, he goes, am I going to win the CrossFit Games? That morning, it was, everyone just laughed at him. Like, I mean, the dude was still tied for first after clean ladder and handstand push-ups. Like, it was so funny in the moment with all of us sitting there. It was a good laugh. But, yeah, going into the final, we can go there now. Yeah, I was super stoked when I found out it was going to be 200 points. I was really hoping for that because I knew there was a lot of things left that I was pretty good at. I figured it was going into it, it was like trying to beat James and Jason. Like it was a shot at second because Brent was over 50 points ahead of me. So I just knew like I was pretty focused on James and Jason. Like I knew that's who I needed to beat to get the podium spot. And then I didn't realize where Brent was on the first one again, because I thought he was pretty much out of reach. And then in the last one, it was just like, go as hard as I can.
Did you not know that until this called out the names? Like when you heard third place, Brent Fikowski, were you like, oh shit, does that mean I'm in second, or did you assume you're in fourth?
No, that was because I knew I beat Jason in both of them. But yeah, it's exactly like I thought I had gotten third. Same thing as semifinals. Like they called third place and it wasn't me. I was like, oh wow, I got second. This is awesome. So yeah.
And you had like, do you allow yourself to look at the what ifs? Like, you know, you finished, say, second by like a few
20
seconds.
Yeah.
Like then by fractions of seconds on other workers. Like, do you allow yourself to look at those, or do you like, is that for another time?
Yeah, like I think about them, but I also make sure that I go into the weekend and every event like not leaving those on the board. And so if it happens, it's out of my control. Like I did everything I could. You try and learn from it. Like there's a couple of things. Like Pat got me by 1500ths of a second on the run dumbbell snatch. And it was like I would have loved to have those. Not that that exactly would have done anything, but yeah, I try not to think about it too much because I've gone into the event making sure that I can't regret it, if that makes sense.
So you win second place. James is in first. Is it difficult? I'm just trying to think of all the different emotions that you're feeling there, where usually you finish on the podium at the games, a feeling that you're familiar with from when you're a teenager. And it's like all your hard work has paid off. I shouldn't use that phrase. I'm going to need to pay O'Keefe money now for that. But you finish, and it's usually you have this elation and relief and whatever, like joy. But then like looking at the pictures of you guys afterwards, and I guess it's hard because like you I'll just show this one here, but like you kind of can't, even if you wanted to. Like I think that was the hardest part. I remember when I was seeing Brent in first place, I was torn of like, okay, I really wanted for Brent, like I really want Brent to win, like to have, he's had so many almost moments. But then I was like, well, do I want him to win? Because if he wins this year, he can't even celebrate it. He can't even really be happy. Like you just have to kind of like, okay, and then nothing. Like you can't, even if you wanted to be happy, if you were happy, you'd be a dick. Do you know what I mean? Like you'd be painted as that. Is it hard? Was it hard to kind of process everything that was happening there? Because the kind of ceremony thing was on just before it too.
Yeah. So I think I felt like that joy and that happiness. Like my wife was at the finish line across after that workout. I knew we were on the podium. That was the goal for us. So like I got to have that moment with her. We were all sitting on the finish line, still like on the high from finishing the workout. The games are over, like telling everyone good job. So I think we had that like moment of like, we did it. This is awesome. But as soon as we went off the floor, that's, I think, more than any time, like the games are over and like the true reality set in. And it was, the next hour was pretty rough, I would say. A lot of tears, a lot of hugging. So that was pretty rough. Once we went off the floor for the final time, it was like the games are over, they don't matter at all, kind of thing. But I'm also like, I am very proud of like where I finished, given the events, especially. Like I wouldn't say it necessarily played in my favor running 4 times. And like I know the hard work I put into that, and like I am enjoying that part of it, but just the whole thing is it's just really weird.
Yeah. It's really weird that James Sprague won the games. Like like he's an incredible athlete, but like nobody saw that coming. Like
nope, I don't think he did.
It's
I don't
crazy.
think anyone did. But then it's like
I'm so happy for him, and it's incredible.
Yeah.
But I was talking to somebody else about this. Like I'm not religious at all.
Yeah.
But like it's crazy to me the dominoes that had to line up and fall in order for him to win the games this year. Like a couple of years time, sure. Like he was on an incremental increase every year. But the fact that he won it, and there's just so many, like it's just so crazy to me, all the things that had to line up in order for him to win the games, and they all lined up perfectly. And then he was the one that was having the mic in his hand, talking about God, talking about like religion and everything. I was like, this is nuts. Like it's the biggest coincidence. If you don't believe in religion, it's the biggest coincidence like to ever happen. It's crazy, but I'm so happy for him. Like, and he's so, again, like part of me feels not bad for him, but it's just kind of shitty that it can't be the way that it could be. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's just the reality of the situation. I think, unfortunately, rightly or wrongly, some people will always have like a little asterisk beside 2024,
Yeah.
same as they did 2019 and 2020 and stuff.
I mean,
He was incredible, like all weekend.
yeah.
Like
Go
you
look at
say, the
his
fact that he's
finishes.
tied after the handstand push-ups, which like no shot, you would have said.
Yeah.
The cleans, no shot. It's crazy.
Just go look at the dude's finishes. Or like they are incredible. And then the other thing, like we sign up to compete in whatever the competition is. Like we don't have a say in programming. That's how it is for every competition. And that's how it is. We sign up to play the game, and like the best man at that competition is the winner. And then also, if you still are like, ooh, whatever you want to say about it, James and I, like for the last, we've known each other for, I don't know, 8 years, 7, 8 years. We would have never second guessed who would beat the other person in a heavy thruster bar muscle up workout. I'm taking him every single time, and he beat me. And I was trying as hard as I could. I didn't blow up. I didn't pace necessarily wrong. Maybe I could have paced better, but he just straight up beat me, and he beat everybody that was there. So
Yeah, it's nuts. Like
yeah,
but even you can see
I
like the physical changes between 18 months ago and now. Like he's a
yeah,
like brick shithouse now, whereas
yeah,
he was kind of tall and a bit gangly before.
yeah. I knew he was so underrated, like having trained with him and all that. Like I knew he was going to be in that top 10, mixing it up with everybody. But yeah, like I don't think anyone expected him to win. But like the the dude's fit, and people underrate him because he is the big goofy shit brick house. Right? Yeah.
John Young, the
Brick
fifth
shit house,
fourth at
same
the
thing.
end was the most clutch performance by any athlete all weekend. Yeah, it
Yep.
was like,
Who would have thought on thrusters and pull-ups? 6'2".
yeah. Does that lead to any tension between you two? The fact now that you're both at like the tip of the spear, as in like, because obviously like
No
Matt's your
way.
coach, Matt's his coach, and then you two are
Yeah.
friends for years as well.
We've celebrated each other's success for 7, 8 years now, and it's not going to change now. So yeah, we've always wanted the
Um,
best for each other. But it's pretty sick that Matt coaches both of us. I would argue Matt's made quite the name for himself the last 2 years. We always
yeah,
knew.
I mean, if that training camp cup actually existed, or like if they actually followed through with it, it'd be hard to look past the guy who gets James Bray to win the fucking games and get second place too. Yeah, it's nuts. He like, what is it about it? So he can obviously identify weaknesses. He obviously listens to his athletes. Like they're the things that I pick up most about him, is that he listens to you guys when you give him, you know, like, oh, I want to do this, I want to do that.
Yeah,
He's the jump that you made from teenager to like elite male is particularly impressive as well, because so many others couldn't do it, or couldn't do it to the level
yeah.
that you did it. James is doing it now too.
Hmm.
And also just the incremental increases year on year from both of you, with strength and then skill and everything else. What is there? Has he got one, say, characteristic that you think makes him a particularly good coach that stands out above the others? Because there's a lot of good coaches around.
Yeah. I think one of the best characteristics about Matt as a coach is how well he is able to learn, but also how competitive he is in that. Like he doesn't want someone to know more than him. Like he won't let it happen. And so like when we were really sick of struggling and running at the end of last year, and we had tried some different things, but it was like, all right, so we sat down, had the conversation, Matt and I, like, do we need to bring on a running coach? And he's like, give me uh, give me these next 4 months or whatever, to try a different running thing. I'm gonna read these books, all this stuff, and if we can't hit like these goals on your mile and 5K, then we bring someone else on. And so I trusted it. PR'd by my mile by 25 seconds and a minute 45 off my 5K.
Yeah.
Just because he was just extremely determined to figure it out. So, and then also
That's
like, I think specifically for him and I, we're extremely similar, and that's how we work so well together. And we collaborate a lot on programming. Like every time we start a new training cycle, like we're building out the skeleton together.
That's cool. So he's worked with you and James for a long time. among others. Is that it? Do you think the two of you, like, do you think, would you be like, oh no, hang on now, if he was like, oh, I'm trying to think out of the top 5 who'd be likely, like Pat and Brown, if Jason was like, oh, I'm going to move to Brute, would you be like, whoa I like the guy, but like 2 is plenty, like me and James is plenty?
I don't think, I think us as a team is in agreement that like ideally it's 1 male, 1 female, but like me and James are like, we've just been doing it forever, so it works. But I don't think any more than that is necessarily a good recipe.
Yeah. I mean, James can identify as a female, I guess, in that scenario, and then it's just fine.
It evens out.
I mean, like Jason did, like, God, he did well this year. He has incredible bounce back ability, but like Jake and him seem to work really well together. And then like JR helping out and stuff obviously works well from this year, like being back at home and stuff is good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Like I got to watch Jake. That's like something I'm always kind of curious about when I'm down in the warm-up area, is like, what are the coaches like? Like, how do they engage? What kind of energy are they bringing to? It's just cool watching the kind of relationships when you're down there. But yeah, Matt and Jake are very similar in that kind of way, where it's kind of like laid back, no unnecessary like stress or like even just unnecessary words being said. They just kind of reflect whatever. So if you're like high energy, they are. If you're not, they're not. And it's good. Like,
especially like because me and Matt are so similar, like we can communicate without like saying a word. Like we both understand the situation and what the other person's thinking. So it's cool. And then he also has a completely different style with James. So you have to. It's James.
Yeah, I don't think you can meet James at low energy. I don't think that would work for very long. It'd probably just fall apart. Where do you go from here then? So the off season, you like Rogue, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
And do you know outside of that?
I'm not sure on some of it, but I will be, hopefully, if I get an invite to Rogue. I imagine I will. I hope I do, because that is probably the most enjoyable competition of the year.
And Scotland, that's cool. Bit of travel.
Yeah, that's super cool. So fingers crossed, would love to go. But yeah, that's what we'll be prepping for. And,
dear Bill and Katie.
Going for another podium there. Yeah, please, Bill and Katie. I love you guys.
I really love Rogue. I just everything Rogue do is great. At least, I mean, now you won't be swimming in the off season anyway. There's no they've like removed swimming from all CrossFit events, so unless you do something unlicensed. When you like sit down with Matt then for say the next 12 months or whatever, 9 months, do you start with like a completely, so obviously you want to improve your running, but like, do you start with a completely blank slate and everything else, or do you go into that conversation thinking, I'm the second fittest man on earth, how can I get to be the first fittest man on earth? Or do you just say like, all right, here's the good stuff from the season, here's the bad stuff, we need to improve on the bad stuff, how do we do that?
I mean, if like really quickly looking over like all of my finishes from the year, we're going to keep running and doing upper body pressing. Like nothing's changed the last 2 years. So it's kind of like, if it's not broke, don't fix it. My CrossFit's going to be where it needs to when it does need to be there. And so we just keep running upper body pressing. We'll probably honestly just restart the running program with my new paces, because it worked so well last year. And then as long as it's continuing to work and we're not seeing a plateau, probably won't change much there. And then we continue trying little things, and if it works, we keep it. If it doesn't, toss it. But I think people try to overcomplicate everything. It's like, I need to get better at running, so I'm just going to train like a runner for like 6 months. It's like the CrossFit's going to be there. Like we touch on it once or twice a week, and then it stays there.
So it's not as straightforward as saying, I was second, I want to be first. It's just closing the little gaps. There are the perceived gaps that you think you have, basically.
I think that part's kind of a given, but it's like, where can I make up the most points? And just start there.
That's fair.
With the end goal of being on top. So
for anybody that hasn't if you want to. The Lazard GoFundMe is heading for 500,000, which is
That's
insane.
incredible.
So you can give. Jeez, Push Press gave $20,000. My €50 looks a bit shit now. Yeah, so if anybody wants to give to help support the family, cover the costs. I mean, like, funerals are expensive, but geez, transporting a body has to be next level. So if you want to give to that, you can give to that.
If you're gonna do anything, support the family. Like, that's the only thing we really can do right now. That's all I can say.
Yeah, I have. I'm not sure if that'll work in the chat, that link, but you can copy and paste from there anyway, I think. And yeah, if you want to, as Dallin says, if you want to do something, that's a thing that you can do that's very easy and there's no barrier of entry. Are you going to do Kill Taylor this weekend?
I'm not working out. No, I'll do Kill Taylor at some point, but I'm not working out right now.
That's fair. Yeah. I think Taylor's in the chat. You probably wouldn't
need to be working.
You probably wouldn't need to be working out to beat him, to be honest, would you?
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Would Dallin rather lose to James or Jason? Who? I feel like James would be more humble with it. Like, he'd be more like.
But then James and I also have like a deeper history, and like James said it multiple times, but like, he's never beaten me in a competition ever. And so it just happened to be the CrossFit Games that he beats me by one spot. Yeah, impossible to
answer. Taylor said he wouldn't want to do this workout. It's not a, hey, I'm getting back into a workout. Okay, so it's going to be like a pull the pin and burn it.
Taylor. I'll be watching though.
Taylor
maybe I'll
says
get on and commentate.
Losing to Jason is the worst, and that's a man
who true. He'll call you up for an interview and embarrass you.
Yeah, Taylor has frequently lost. He's frequently lost to him. Okay. Congratulations.
Thank you.
It couldn't happen to a nicer fella. I'm so happy for you. For James as well, and Brent. It's great. Jason fourth. God, it's great. The actual top 10, they're all pretty nice guys. 12, even 13th. Wow, I could keep going. They're all great guys. But yeah, listen, I'm really happy for you. Congrats to Matt as well. Like, the work that he's done with the 2E is just sensational. I think I'm going to Rogue. So hopefully, if you, presuming you get an invite, I'll see you there.
Yeah.
But yeah, congrats, man. Like, unbelievable. Someone corrected me. I said when hard work pays off, and someone had a better one here. Where the fuck is it? I'm not going to be able to find it. It was something about brute strength. When his brute strength shows or something, I think it was Augustus said it. I'm not going to be able to find it, but it was better anyway. And I don't think it's copyrighted. But yeah, congrats, man. I'm really happy for you. It's great. It's fantastic. Oh, actually, do you know what your GoWOD score is?
My GoWOD score? I think I'm right at like 100 hours.
Fuck off.
Yeah. Is that good or bad?
Oh, is 100%?
Jeff Adler's at 500.
No, score as in, like, what's your mobility score? Not like how many times you've done it or how many hours or whatever.
I don't know right now. I need to retest. I haven't retested since like the beginning of the season.
So I did.
What's your lowest?
Like my lowest. So I did a GoWOD. So anybody who wants to download the app, you can scan that QR code in the top left. And if you want to join Sentinel, you can scan the QR code in the top right. But I did a test, and I got, I'll tell you now. How do I historically see them? I was on 56%, right? So almost half of my body was immobile. So like, if you split my body in half, I was able to touch my toe with my right hand, but not my left. It wasn't that cut and dry. But yeah, I did GoWOD every day for 30 days, and I added 15%. So I'm up at like 72 now.
That's legit.
Isn't that insane? And like, I felt like shit when I was doing it. I was like, this isn't improving at all. I feel like I'm worse.
If you do GoWOD for 60 more days, then you'll be the perfect human.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to flexibility, I'll still have terrible morals and there'll be a lot of other stuff wrong with me, but I'll be flexible.
Exactly. What was your worst section? Mine's like T-spine and posterior, I think.
Yeah,
Which
like my
makes
hamstrings
sense.
are absolutely god awful.
Yeah.
They're like really bad. But it's my overhead is bad. But I can feel it, like, when you're doing some of the tests, like my shoulder
Uh-huh.
cramped when I was doing the one where
And it
your
just
hands
doesn't.
like the stop one or the
You
where it
actually
freeze. Yeah, my
you actually
right
can't
shoulder
even do
cramped. And I
it.
was like, oh, okay, I can't do that one. But I did it this time. One thing I couldn't do the wall squat. So the way you go down, you put
Oh
the
yeah.
credit cards or whatever
Mhm.
down. I don't know where they are now, but I actually used your rookie
Could you
card,
show the front and
James's.
back of the cards you used? Oh,
I
you used
used your
them.
rookie card, James's rookie card, and I think it was Alexis Raptors' card. Um, but I couldn't do it. I was like, right, is there a fourth option? It's
Is
like
there?
you're either at the wall, you're away, or you just can't do it. So,
Yeah.
but I injured my knee in like February, and then after the 30 days, I was at the second credit card, so I couldn't air squat
You couldn't do
before
three.
doing the 30 days. Like I couldn't do a free. I couldn't confidently say I'm just going to drop into a squat and squat down.
Yeah.
I had to like psych myself up for it. I'd be like, this is going to hurt. I know this is the one, or this is the one that's going to hurt. So after 30 days, I was able to do that. So that's pretty crazy.
That's legit. That's legit.
Yeah.
Oh,
So as you
I have
say,
one other question.
oh
Do you
yeah,
remember the first interview when I was like one of your very first podcasts?
I do remember that. Yeah, you were
That was
out. You
that's
were
pretty bad, huh?
you were at your house, I think,
Yeah.
or your parents' house, whatever. Yeah, it is actually. So a couple of people have said it. So I remember that episode. I remember I didn't feel bad for you, but I was like, this is like a young kid, and like putting him on
Yeah.
his own is harsh. So I think I split your episode with Lauren Fisher, and it
Oh
was
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
you and her split half and half.
That was a good call. I appreciate
Yeah, she wasn't much better, to be honest. But you, I remember afterwards being struck. I was like, geez, I was like fucking, I won't say that. I was like just a fucking moron when I was that age. Like I was just doing dumb shit, and like I was dumb, and I was
Yeah.
like, like room was full of crusty socks, and I was just useless.
Crusties.
And I just remember being like, fucking hell, that guy's like 12 and he's more of a man than I'll ever be. Like he's more like well-rounded and like, thought out, and like
Yeah.
a few people have said it here in the comments. Again, I'm not going to be able to find them, but I don't think I'll ever not be struck. So I'm always really impressed with your athletic ability. I'm always really impressed with like the fun that you're able to have and get out of it, and like the kind of banter that you have. I hate that word, but the kind of banter that you have with Jason and the others and stuff, it's cool. And your willingness to put yourself out there, like doing the quarterfinals with the guys, like doing the mic'd up at Waterpalooza, it's all really impressive. But like you're already a leader in the sport, which, as you mentioned, like Pat's not going to be around forever, Brent's not going to be around forever, and like those guys, like they need help. And I think it's great that you've such a good head on your shoulders, and that you're able to articulate things, and that you don't rush into things or say things just for the sake of saying things, or just pile on for the sake of piling on. A few people, I'm not going to be able to find them, but a few people have commented that like it's remarkable that you've just grown up in the sport, but you've grown up, so well. Like Judy says, his maturity and how level-headed he is. Yeah, that's what I'm going for.
I appreciate that.
So it's great. And
yeah, try and make smart decisions for the most part.
Yeah. Okay. What?
I think we're laughing at the same comment.
I'll let you go. Thanks. And congrats again. And hopefully we'll see you in whenever Rogue is, October or November. That'd be cool.
Yeah, we'll chat. We'll see you later.
Yeah, thanks everyone.